Alright, we are going to start the Sutta discussion with the topic of 7 factors of enlightenment, SFE in short. 7 factors of enlightenment is, as a concept, is called Sapta Bojjhanga. With the Pali word, we can say that they are directly taking us into nirvana. 7 factors of enlightenment. So you can see the 7 factors of enlightenment in the screen. The first one, mindfulness factor of enlightenment, Sati Bojjhanga. Second, the investigation factor of enlightenment, Dhamma Vichaya Bojjhanga. Third, perseverance factor of enlightenment, Virya Bojjhanga. Fourth, rapture factor of enlightenment, Piti Bojjhanga. Fifth one, the tranquility factor of enlightenment, Passaddi Bojjhanga. Sixth, the concentration factor of enlightenment, Samadhi Bojjhanga. The last one, the seventh one, is equanimity factor of enlightenment, Upekkha Bojjhanga. In the discourse of Satipatthana related to Dhammanupassana, Buddha advises us to be mindful of these 7 factors of enlightenment in order to develop mindfulness based on Dhammanupassana. How do you understand this fact according to Satipatthana discourse? This is the question. In my understanding, we should have the factors of enlightenment in us. Mindfulness factor of enlightenment should be noticed in us in order to become mindful about that. When it comes to Bodhi Anga, factors of enlightenment, we are not talking about the initial stage of mindfulness. Suppose you are mindful about washing dishes, or you are mindful about eating. It does not what we talk about in the factors of enlightenment. When it comes to factors of enlightenment, mindfulness factor has been developed firmly, strongly. Those things that we mentioned before, like washing dishes, eating, we have trained enough on these typical activities. We do not have any desire, ill will, or any hindrances on while doing all these activities. No opportunities for any of those hindrances to invade our mind while we are doing all these activities. We have gone beyond that. Then only mindfulness become an enlightened factor. Actually, real bhavana is coming when we have these 7 factors of enlightenment in mind. If you look at the way the Buddha explained the 7 factors of enlightenment, we can easily understand this. He says, Sati Bojjhanga, Maya Samma Dakkata, Bhavita, Bahulikata, Yanikata, Vattukata, Anuttita, Parichita. He says, I have practiced the factor of mindfulness, factor of enlightenment, not only once. Bhavita, I used it always. Bhavita, Bahulikata, I did it always and also number of times until I feel that mindfulness is an easy thing for me. It means you do not need to think that I should become mindful now. It comes automatically. it comes without effort. It comes when you talk, when you walk, when you drive, when you eat, when you do urinating, defecating, when you talk to children. It comes automatically. Then we can say that you have the factor of enlightenment. Without effort, you can get the essence of mindfulness and the other factors of enlightenment. That's how you associate the enlightened factors. When someone identify the 7 factors of enlightenment in his practice, I experience that he or she feel that he is going to attain at least to Sotapanna. There is a guarantee, trust on his mind, on her mind, that okay, enlightenment is such a beautiful thing. He, if I tell it metaphorically, he or she sees the enlightenment now, because she has or he has 7 factors of enlightenment in experience. So Buddha said like that, and I'm telling you that when we use the bodhyanga, it does not mean just mindfulness. It does not mean just perseverance. It does not mean that you have kind of investigation. You have gone beyond certain level. If I said in percentages, you have 80% mindfulness, 80% perseverance, 80% investigation, not 20%, not 40%. You are in a great level of those factors. Then only you can call 7 factors of enlightenment. Therefore, 7 factors of enlightenment, as mentioned in the slide, are very deep, but could be practiced if we understand the concept well and put them into practice in daily life. So, understand the depth of the concept. We come across these factors with different names: Samma Sati, Samma Ditti, Samma Vayama. So we have these things with different names in other sects. But when you use the word bodhyanga, factors of enlightenment, you have to develop them into greater extent, which you feel the enlightenment definitely. So Buddha asked us to be mindful about the 7 factors of enlightenment. It hints that even those enlightened people practice mindfulness on these 7 factors, though they have done their duties in terms of attaining enlightenment. It means even arahants have perfect mindfulness on these 7 factors, though they have completed them and attained to nirvana. We are in the 4th foundation, Dhammanupassana. This is one section of the Dhammanupassana, 7 factors of enlightenment. So those who are striving for enlightenment definitely should come to this level and be mindful. And those who have gone beyond the normal conditions to Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and even Arahants are mindful about those qualities in their mind. Right? Even the Buddha said, Maya Samadakkata, I have seen the mindfulness factor of enlightenment and practice it into highest extent. I practice the investigation factor. I practice the perseverance, rapture, tranquility, concentration, equanimity. Buddha said that. So, in Dhammanupassana section, foundation section, Satta Bojjhanga, we have to be mindful about them. So I hope we understand each concept well. mindfulness is easy to understand compared to other things. You know what mindfulness is. Mindfulness on body, mindfulness on feelings, mindfulness on mind, mindfulness on mental state. Differentiate the mind and mental state. Mental state always called Dhamma. Suppose you have angry mind for 1 hour. You are angry with somebody, and that's called angry mind. So you have that angry mind for 1 hour. Within that 1 hour, how many thoughts you have? Uncountable. You may say, okay, I should get revenge. No, I do not want to do that. I'm a Buddhist, I'm a meditator, but I have to tell it that I'm angry. So you have so many negative thoughts within that 1 hour. So within 1 hour you have angry mind. Within the angry mind you have so many thought processes. So now you can differentiate what is the mind and what are the mental states. So that's called mindfulness on mind and mindfulness on mental state. Then investigation. Investigate everything. The mind, the body, feeling, sensation, everything. Perseverance. For the mindfulness and also investigations to function as they are, there should be a strong feeling, strong factor there. That's called perseverance. Without perseverance, effort, no mindfulness, no investigation come into being. So perseverance is not the physical energy we call. Of course, there should be a physical energy, but mostly we talk about the mental energy here, right? The rapture. Why do I put these three in red? Because they always work together. They are fundamental qualities of enlightenment. Everybody should understand the correlation of the three factors. You cannot practice one of these alone. If you practice, it is not right mindfulness. It is not the factor of enlightenment. Wisdom should be there, investigation should be there. Wisdom and investigation are used for one thing, panya, sammaditthi, and perseverance, virya, or right effort should be there to develop right mindfulness. And right mindfulness also should be there to develop the other two. So they are just like the four wheels of a car. You cannot drive a car with three wheels, right? If it is a four-wheel vehicle, you should have all the four wheels to drive. It's just like three pods. Suppose you have something to stand and three pods. So if one is not there, it's impossible to use it. So mindfulness, investigation, and perseverance work together in unison to bring mindfulness, investigation, and perseverance also. So when these three are developed together, rapture arises as a factor of enlightenment. Rapture is mostly mental, peaceful state of your mind. When mindfulness, perseverance, investigation function together, according to the instruction given by the Buddha, you feel happy. That's called rapture. Because of the peace and happiness in your mind, you feel your body is relaxed, tranquilized, and then that's called tranquility factor of enlightenment. Then concentration. Your mind has stopped all kind of rubbish ideas. It does stay within, remain in silence. You can now take the 100% control in your mind. When samadhi is there, you have the control of your mind. You can direct your mind now towards seeing anything you want, even to previous life, even to read others' mind. So in samadhi state, you can do so many things, but we emphasize just to direct that mind towards ending craving, ending defilement. That's all where Buddha focus. So as a result of concentration, equanimity, factor of enlightenment arises. It means balance. You do not allow your mind to stay with happy and peaceful things much. Take it into the middle, and there is no worry at all, because you have gone beyond that level. So equanimous mind is the most subtle, beautiful thing than even concentration, samadhi. In samadhi, you enjoy it very much. There is nothing for you to neglect. You can enjoy even angry people. Suppose you are in the middle of angry crowd, you do not feel that anger anymore. You see how unfortunate this being, and I should be compassionate. Such a beautiful state comes when you have samadhi, concentration. But equanimity, still samadhi is wavering. Samadhi could be not very much matured, but when we comes to the equanimity as a factor of enlightenment, you balance that immature level of samadhi too. That is done by the equanimity. So we have to learn a lot in this section, but our intention here is to just to know these factors and become mindful about them. When you know these factors individually and together, you can, in your experience, you could be mindful about them. This is the very idea. So now we go to the next one. So how to concentrate on 7 factors of enlightenment. This is the exact lines in the discourse of Satipatthana I put here for you to read. A monk understands properly that when the factors of enlightenment awareness is present within him, the factors of enlightenment awareness is present in me. What does it mean? When you feel that mindfulness is as a factor of enlightenment has arisen in you, just notice it. It means you notice that there is mindfulness present in me. When the factor of enlightenment awareness is absent from him, from me, you understand that as well. Earlier there was a mindfulness, but now it is not there. Mind is scattered, not concentrated. So understand that state as well. Then when we comes to the third section of the Sutta phrase, how he understand properly how the factor of enlightenment awareness that has not yet arisen in him comes to arise. So you had mindfulness in you, you lost it. Now whatever you lost has come again. You notice that, oh, mindfulness is there again. I'm mindful. So you lost, you didn't have anything, but with the right practice you got mindfulness. Because of some distraction you lost mindfulness. Now you got it again. Now you feel that mindfulness is there. He understands properly how the factor of mind enlightenment awareness has now arisen, is developed and perfected. Now you got it again. Now you put fuel to develop it. Now you strive so hard to bring it perfection. So you notice that as well. So that's how we practice the mindfulness factor of enlightenment in 4 stages related to Dhammanupassana. This is only about mindfulness factor of enlightenment. We can apply this method with 4 sections into other 6 factor of enlightenment as well. Yeah.
Question. The stages of stages of bhavana, which is vitakka, vichara, priti, sukha, ekaggata, does that relate to the seven
Oh yes,
factors?
they are there. They are mostly related in rapture, tranquility factors, and concentration. Because vitakka, vichara are two aspects of samadhi in the first jhana and second jhana.
Okay.
So they are mostly discussed in the rapture and tranquility and concentration.
Okay.
So when when we meditate, we would be able to focus the meditation subject. Slowly we feel that our mind is not disturbed with anything external, but our mind is always focused on the body, mind, and anything comes to body and mind, interrelated, and we are focused on that. That's called vitakka. Vichara means mind create ideas limited to the area the mind focuses. For example, mind is always dealing with the body and mind, not anything else. So you feel happy, you feel no pain on your legs, so you enjoyed it. Oh, it's peaceful, it is serene, it is so nice. So mind is habitually creating ideas on that. That's called vichar. So you create thoughts, you have an idea about the mentality and physiology of at that moment. That's called vitakka. Vichara means create some further ideas on that within the framework of peace and happiness. So it's in the first jhana. As a result of that, you have rapture, you have tranquility, and you are in the jhanic experiences. Yeah, of course they are related. So Buddha in other places said that the causes of ignorance is the hindrances. Ignorance is not coming alone. It is a result of hindrances. We have talked enough the 5 hindrances, right? The kama chanda, sensual pleasures, ill will, sleepiness and drowsiness, sloth and torpor, and remorse and worry and doubt. These are the 5 hindrances. So ignorance is the results of 5 hindrances. When 5 hindrances are there in our mind, you are ignorant. You are ignorant to realities. And the causes of knowledge is the awakening factors. If you have knowledge, that is because of developing the 7 factors of enlightenment. Now we know the duality. If there are hindrances present in our mind, expect only ignorance. If 7 factors of enlightenment are present in our mind, we have knowledge. We are in wisdom. We do not become a victim of any of those defilements. So that's called duality in spirituality. So just as the dawn precedes the sun, good friendship precedes the awakening factors. It's a simile given by the Buddha to show the importance of 7 factors of enlightenment. In the early morning around 5 or 4:30, we can see the dawn. Dawn is not the sun rising. The early signs of sun rising is called dawn, the dawn. You can see the lights on the eastern sky. That means the sun is going to rise in 1 hour or 1.5 hours or maybe 30 minutes, depending on the climate. So just like that, if good friendship is the key for practicing 7 factors of enlightenment. When you have good friends, they always talk about practicing mindfulness, living your life away from unwholesomeness. They talk about the ways of developing wisdom. They talk about the importance of being happy in the righteous ways, so forth. So good friendship is the proceeding factor for 7 factors of enlightenment. This is not the dawn, this is sun rising. I think 10 minutes or 20 minutes before the sun rises, you can see the light
Yes.
on the eastern sky. That's called the dawn. So I have taken some statement of the Buddha from different discourses to show you how important the 7 factors of enlightenment. When Mahakassapa was sick, the Buddha taught him the awakening factors, inspiring him to a swift recovery. It is recorded in Samyutta Nikaya. When Mahamoggallana, one of the greatest disciples, was sick, the Buddha taught him the awakening factors, inspiring him to a recovery. When the Buddha was sick, Venerable Mahachunda, in front of the Buddha, recited the 7 factors of enlightenment in the form of chanting. Then the Buddha got recovery. See how powerful the 7 factors of enlightenment. Only Arahants could get that kind of recovery, 7 factors of enlightenment into recovery. No other people, because they have practice enough to get them into concentration and cure themselves from physical illnesses. So these are the main 3 sutta evidences that Arahants, including the Buddha, got the 7 factors of enlightenment into consideration in terms of curing themselves from physical illnesses. So this is another examples for you to see how 5 hindrances make you unclean, right? If you touch muds or anything like that, your clothes, white clothes, become unclean. But when you have 7 factors of enlightenment, it's just like cleaning the dirty clothes. So when you have FH means 5 hindrances, when you have 5 hindrances present in you, your whole life become a mess. Your life is defiled by the 5 hindrances. So when you apply 7 factors of enlightenment in a short form, in a simple form, you become slowly clean yourself. So another example is given in the Samyutta Nikaya. So we turn it into this way for us to understand the concept easily. Suppose you have rain on top of the mountain. Then it becomes a small stream. Water flows in this way, and it becomes a huge river kind of thing. Then people collect, so then the river flows down through the mountains and hilly area towards the plain. Then you collect the water by building a dam, right? So now what do you do with the collected water? You produce electricity. And then you take the power into a station and distribute them for public to use the electricity, so to dispel the darkness. So this is a simile given. If you practice mindfulness, perseverance, investigation, rapture, and tranquility, concentration and equanimity, these 7 factors, slowly, one after the other, in patience, practice in patience, it's just like collecting water into a dam and creating energy, electricity, and use it for not only dispelling the darkness but also for other use of life. So similarly, you can get enlightenment. The flower means the enlightenment, the light means the enlightenment. You are enlightened. So that is one of the similes given in the text to show how important the 7 factors of enlightenment. And in the Satipatthana practice, we become mindful about all these things. Right? So now we go to the last section of Dhammanupassana, the 4 Noble Truths. If you want to know the details of the 4 Noble Truths in a very nice way, just refer to the discourse Mahasatipatthana that we are discussing now. Because only in that discourse you have such a detailed explanation. No other discourses could be found with such details. But here I do not take everything as in the discourse because it takes long time to finish that section, but therefore I took some simple statement. You know what are the 4 Noble Truths? The Noble Truth of suffering or unsatisfactoriness, called dukkha. The Noble Truth of arising of suffering, or samudaya. The Noble Truth of cessation of suffering is the 3rd one, called nirodha. And the last one, magga, the Noble Truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Why do we call noble for each of these truths? How does suffering become noble? It's not noble, right? Nobody like it.
It teaches you.
Yeah, kind of. And any other explanation? This is one thing. One thing you said that it teaches the Buddha, and only the Buddha could realize it, and nobody else do that. So it is universal. Suffering is a universal reality. It does not talk about only the Buddha's suffering. It does not talk about the suffering of a particular being. It is relevant to human beings, it's relevant to divine beings, it's relevant to animals, it's relevant to invisible other beings. If there is birth, there is suffering. It is universal. That's why it's called noble. And the other reason for the word noble in the Arya is that when the person understands the truth through his experience, he becomes noble. When you absorb the content of the fact from your own experience, you become noble. Anybody else, somebody else could have the same experience. This is one reason for the word Arya, noble, in the noble fact, the 4 Noble Truths. Otherwise, suffering does not become noble, nor its reason as well. So we have the 4 Noble Truths. In the Dhammanupassana section, the meditator understands that this is the noble truth of suffering. When you are sick, this is what the Buddha said. Dukkha or suffering, unsatisfactoriness is a reality. This is what I experience now. Or when you have frustration, sorrow, lamentation, you understand this is not anything else. This is a reality. As long as this life continues, they are unavoidable. So why should I become worried? This is how you take the first noble truth in the framework of mindfulness. Right? So the 4 Noble Truths. We can ask a couple of questions. Actually, we have answered them. Why we need to understand the 4 Noble Truths? Because it is the central teaching of the Buddha. Buddhas are born to this universe just to understand the Four Noble Truths from their experience and delivered it to people. It means this is the central teaching of the Buddha's discovery. In order to get what the Buddha said, we all need to understand the Four Noble Truths, the central teaching. So, understanding Four Noble Truths should be done no matter which path you go, no matter which meditation subject you prefer, no matter which meritorious deed you do, you need to address the concept of suffering as explained in the Four Noble Truths. So nobody can avoid the central teachings of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths, if they want to attain enlightenment. So therefore this is the most important concept in the Buddha's teaching. Do the Four Noble Truths relate to each Buddhist concept? How? Of course. When we say that this is the central teaching of the Buddha, it has connections to each and every single concept in Buddha's teaching, including sila, including dana, including karma, vijnana, consciousness, mind, body. They are all related. They are all bound to the central teaching. If you understand the Four Noble Truths, it means you understand each and every concept in the Buddha's teaching. How do we practice mindfulness on the Four Noble Truths? That is where we focus now. Buddha said, a monk understand properly as it is. This is suffering. This is the arising of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. So, we need to have the mindfulness on suffering, on the causes of suffering, the way the suffering ends, and the path, the way we end the suffering. Let's take an example. We are sick. We have fever. When we have fever, we know that we have fever. The body is so warm, no energy at all, no appetite to eat. We cannot walk. The only thing we can do is resting on the bed. So we know from the body and mind that we are sick. There are so many signs of sicknesses out there. So many of us can know what causes this illness. It could be bad food, it could be too much work, it could be some other reason. Somehow we are able to find the reasons. So then we are sick, we have fever, we know the reason of sickness, and now we feel that we should take medicine. Resting on the bed, eating only some light food, maybe soup, maybe drinking water or juice, could be medicine, and then some medicine given by the doctor, we take it. So now we know that after taking enough rest and the medicine, we could get rid of this illness. So taking medications and having some time according to the advice of the doctor is just like following the Fourth Noble Truth, the Noble Eightfold Path. You have the method of overcoming the sickness, and after a couple of days, or maybe 1 day or 2 days, you feel you slowly get and the normal health condition. You recover yourself. So it means that by practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, you feel that you might slowly release all these bondage, attachment. Nibbanic experience could come not only just once. You feel the Nibbanic pleasure one after the other depending on your practice. So we must be mindful about the Four Noble Truths when we practice Sila, when we practice Samadhi, when we do all kind of meritorious deed, we could experience some sort of noble truths in there. That's called mindfulness on the Four Noble Truths. So we break down the first noble truth as mentioned in the Satipatthana discourse. The first one, the first noble truth, dukkha, suffering, unsatisfactoriness. A lot of people use the word suffering to explain the concept of dukkha, but in the Buddha's teaching, dukkha means both physical and mental, disorder, or I would say unsatisfactoriness. The best word to explain the dukkha is unsatisfactoriness. It's not the physical pain. It's included, but mostly Buddha talk about the domanas, attachment, ill will, hatred, greed, and that kind of thing. It's called mental unsatisfactoriness. So dukkha, birth is suffering. The first section of dukkha is birth is suffering. So when you remember your birthdays, what do you need to think? If you are in the mindfulness training, you must theoretically, at least theoretically, you should think that birth is suffering. Because of birth, I have this life so far, which sometimes if your birth is so meritorious, and after birth you had this good friends to associate, your parents are so nice and they give you the best thing, and now you are in peace, that kind of birth are really good. The birth of the Buddha, the birth of Arahants are really good. But we talk about the fundamentalities of birth. Even the Buddha's birth, he had to experience after birth a lot of problems, right? His mind is enlightened, but he's not his physical body. His physical body is same as us, is same as ours. Sicknesses, old age, deterioration are some of the manifestation of his physical body. He said himself that truth through many months. So birth is basically a suffering. Birth into any existence is suffering. Is a child come to this world smiling? No, we all cried at the birth. Either because we came out of a huge dark room, or because of the pain that we had at the birth, or these thing could be the reason for us to cry. We don't know yet. But there is a story of Venerable Sivali. Venerable Sariputta asked, Venerable Sivali was in the womb for a long time, and then he came out, and when he grew enough to talk, the Venerable Sariputta asked the question, how was the time you were in the womb? Now this young kid could talk about that. He had the ability to remember the time he was in the womb. Oh, Venerable Sir, it was a very, very painful period. It was red, dark red, and I could not do anything except just move. How about if you trapped in a cave and no clue that you could get out of it? You are so fearful, no hopes. Venerable, I had that kind of feelings. So birth into any state, even a peaceful human life, is not pleasant therefore. So birth is a suffering, Buddha said. Because of birth there is old age, Jarapi, dukkha. You can see the lion is so powerful, so arrogant in the forest, but even the lion become helpless when old age is manifesting in his life. No energy to run and catch animals for food. Old age, these people were like us some time ago. And if you are in 40s and 50s, you remember your young age. You feel that you cannot walk, cannot do things like in your young age. So old age is always a reality. Then sicknesses is always coming. One of the suffering that human beings, living beings, mostly experience is sicknesses. Old age is not felt quite often. It takes some time to experience, right? But sicknesses is one of the common suffering that everybody experience. No happiness at all, right? You don't feel anything to do. You even thinking about the Buddha doesn't give you so much satisfaction in sickness. That's why Buddha asks us to do more when we are healthy. When we are healthy, we must be wise enough to do a lot of things, a lot of good things. Then only that power could be flow, could come to us when we are sick. When you are in the sick bed, you cannot do much. Even thinking of good things could not happen as it is. So sickness is a real suffering. Death, definitely it happens immediately. Death doesn't take that much time to happen. But the sickness and old age are real suffering. In my personal view, we should not be worried about the death. It happens immediately. But the old age and sickness could kill us, cut off every possibilities to do good things. But death happens immediately. Then sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief are suffering, Buddha said. Physical pain, suffering, and mental pain, suffering, they are so much. They are just like our relatives. They are just like our friends. If we look at our life overall, many are the state of sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief than happy states. Let's think about the today. How many hours we have been living. Maybe we wake up around 6:30 or 5:30. How many minutes, how many hours we are in happiness, complete, full delightness, joy. How many hours we stay in confusion, sensual desire. How many hours we worry about things. We do not analyze our time in that way, but if we think about it, only couple of minutes or hours we could definitely categorize as happy and peaceful. Many of the time of the day are not pleasant, are not put into happy category, peaceful category. If you at least practice 5 principles and live up to the principle that you adhere every day, definitely you are in the happy category, but many people in the world are not like that. So sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief are suffering. Association with someone or something that does not like is a suffering. Suppose you have a partner that always believes something different from you. It's a suffering. Suppose husband thinks something different, husband believes on something you do not like. It's a suffering for wife. If wife thinks something different from husband, it's a suffering for the husband. And if children are not in in agreement, it's very difficult to come to the agreement. But here mostly we think association of people that are totally different from your perception. Suppose you in the work, in offices, in workplaces, you have this experience very much. There is no choice. You have to associate that person, because that is your duty. That is part of your job. So it's a suffering. Disassociation with someone or something we like is suffering. Piya vippayogo dukkha, departing from someone you like. The airport is, or the bus station and the train station are the places that you have this experience. And what is the other place? Could be the hospital, could be the cemetery, funeral parlor, even at home. Any place, any physical place, in any time of your life, you can have this suffering too.
Even at weddings.
Yeah, you cry when your daughter, when your son get married. Yes, and when children stay with you and when they go to universities, yeah, and that's the kind of terminal point of your life. They do not come back. They just come to see you after vacation, during the vacation, and after the university they go for work and maybe in a distant place. That's all you have. So yeah, there are point of your life that you experience this particular suffering. I remember how I was thinking when my parents were taken, when they took me to temple. I felt that when only they went away, I was crying. That was the first time I was away from home. It was so terrible. And I cried, I didn't eat, I could not eat. So my Lokohamdru said that, okay, you cannot do this in this way, so you better go home. Then he took me to the bus hold 7 kilometers. After 7 kilometers walking downhill. So my temple is on the top of a huge mountainous area. So after 2 weeks, I agreed with my parents that I should go there. So only that occasion I felt this particular suffering, no any other time. Okay, so the next one, not to get what one desires is suffering. So children wish to get very beautiful, very valuable gift item in Christmas, in birthdays, in occasion they celebrate. If suppose this child is happy to get iPad, I believe. So he gets something very little. Now he is in suffering because he did not get what he wishes. So it is a suffering. What do we expect from this teaching? We could be able to become mindful about the mentalities we have in these occasions. Suppose your daughter is going to overseas for a couple of months. So at the airport, you feel that suffering. Be mindful about it. Oh, this is what the Buddha said. Piya vippayogo dukkha. Then you could control that suffering. You could be away from that suffering. It is the mindfulness Buddha taught in Dhammanupassana. So when somebody died, just be mindful about that suffering. Piya vippayogo dukkha. This is what we talk about in suffering. So that's how we become mindful about suffering. In short, Buddha said, the clinging to the five aggregates is suffering. Sankittena panchupadana kanda dukkha. We know what five aggregates of clingings are: form, feelings, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So, in short, we can say that suffering is the five aggregates of clinging, and you become mindful when these five aggregates present in your mind. It's not easy, but we should do that too. So now we come to the second noble truth, the noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of arising of suffering. Suffering or the unsatisfactoriness arises because of craving. We know that. Craving has been categorized into three. What are the three categories? You said one. First one is craving for sensual pleasures, kama tanha. Desire for sensory experiences. We have that. That's why we like to say different things, like to hear different things. Even in the good category, we like to hear something different good. Suppose you come to temple every week and I speak the same thing, you become bored. That's because our mind always seeks something different, even in the good category. So that's called sensual pleasure. Of course, that kind of sensual pleasure is good because you want to hear something different to accelerate your practice. You should have that kind of desire. They are called wholesome desires. Until we come to the stage where we do not go back, for example, Sotapanna, we should have that kind of wholesome desires in mind. Otherwise, you are not encouraged by. But having craving for sensual pleasures is bad. It takes you suffering. It causes you suffering. Craving for existence, bhavatanha, is the second category. So you have pleasure for sensual pleasures and you do not want to end it. You want to continue that sensual pleasure, is called bhavatanha. Desire for existence of sensual pleasure is called bhavatanha. The last one, craving for non-existent, vibhavatanha. Suppose you have suffering, you are sick, you are mentally frustrated, disappointed, and you are angry, you are envious, you want to get rid of it. In order to get rid of that suffering, you have to apply the rational methods. Instead of applying rational method, you try to jump from a wall, you try to hang yourself, commit suicide, could be rough examples of vibhavatanha. But I could say in a subtle way that rejecting suffering could also be vibhavatanha. You cannot reject suffering. It is a reality. Suppose you are sick. You said that I do not want this. I cannot bear this pain. It is okay to tell that you cannot bear this pain, but what you can do? So having negative thoughts on the suffering you experience now doesn't make any sense, because you cannot keep it out. It goes slowly from your body. It goes because of the recovery method you apply. Then only it becomes completely going away from your body. So having that kind of negative feelings could be vibhavatanha, desire for non-existent. You should be existing in that unpleasant experience. You cannot reject it. That's called vibhavatana in a subtle way. So desire for satisfying the, I would take a couple of minutes on the second noble truth further, because it should be understood, because we should understand how suffering arises. Desire for satisfying the senses by seeing, hearing, tasting and so forth is the cause, is the way we create kama tanha, bhava tanha and vibhava tanha. People think that this is the joy of life, but it is not the joy of life. It's temporary. Whatever is temporary is leading you to suffering. These people are enjoying the life, of course, yes, but it leads to suffering. After dancing for many hours with drinking alcohol, you feel pain in your body. You are frustrated. If this is a solution for happiness, we all should stop this kind of meditation and Dhamma talks. We can meet in a bar, in a restaurant and drink and dance. That doesn't solve our problems. It is good for people to socialize. I don't say that it is the best method to socialize either, but people used to say that that's the way people become socialized. And it is good for forgetting your problems even for a couple of hours, but I don't think it's the best way to forget the problems. You become so confused with them. I cannot find anyone in this human world who drink a lot and use drugs solve their problems. If you find somebody, please tell me too. I don't think so. Where does suffering get established? This is the very important part in this section. The I in the world, let's forget about the world, in the world part. I is enticing, pleasurable. There this craving arises and get established. So it is in our, the suffering, the craving started from our eyes, and it is the place that we create desire. And the ear, the nose, tongue, body, these are the senses, including the mind. These are the senses that we create craving. And not only that, the visible object, all the sensory objects, visible objects and sound and so forth. Then eye consciousness, eye contact, sensation arising from the eye contact and the perception of visible contact. They are in details. I put them in this way for you to get kind of understanding. So whatever we see, there is eye and visible objects. That's the place we create craving. Either kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. It is our eyes. It is the mentality we created after seeing. We have to consider in terms of understanding the causes of suffering. Desire for existing of sensory satisfaction by seeing. I put this one just to give an idea how desire for existence come into being. When you exist, you feel that you are there. The person I see the things. I am the boss. I am the one who. That's called bhava tanha. You become that. Desire for non-existent. So you want to get rid of. You don't want to be there. You don't like it. That's called desire for non-existent. So some people commit suicide because of this feeling. So we quickly go to the third noble truth, the noble truth of cessation of suffering. If we ask the question to explain the first noble truth, people say a lot. Because we have birth, decay, sorrow, lamentation, death, and everything are under the first noble truth. We can say a lot. If you ask the question, explain the second noble truth, we still can explain a lot. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. If you ask the question, explain the fourth noble truth, people explain a lot. It is samma ditti, samma sankappa, right understand, and so forth. But if you ask the question to explain the third noble truth, people say only couple of lines. It's all destruction of craving. That's all people say. But there are a lot to say in the third noble truth. Mainly, the Paticca Samuppada should be explained in the third noble truth. It is the complete fading away and cessation of this very craving, forsaking it and giving it up, the liberation from it, the leaving no place for it. It's called Nibbana. So we explain Nibbanic experience in the third noble truth. So becoming aware of the third noble truth means you address the beautiful concept called Nibbana in the third noble truth. So in that third noble truth, we again talk about the eyes, the object of seeing, and the ears, and so forth, and all the gradual path of seeing, hearing, and tasting in the third noble truth, as explained in the second noble truth. Today I am going to email you this whole slides, and then you can go here if you have time. I said that there are 154, but altogether there are 195 slides. So you can go through. So we go to the fourth noble truth, the noble truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, eightfold path. So that is the path that we all should come and practice. Even to understand the first and the second and the third, we should be in this fourth noble truth. By practicing the fourth noble truth, we come to completion of the first, second, and the third. That is the path. That is the method we have to go on. So you know what are the eightfold paths. Starting from right understanding, we have right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. I quickly go on how the Buddha explained the fourth noble truth in the Satipatthana discourse. The noble truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. It is this, the noble eightfold path. Now you can see the 8 limbs. Right understanding is called understanding the knowledge of suffering, the knowledge of arising of suffering, the knowledge of cessation of suffering, the knowledge of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Wherever you come across the word right understanding, it is the understanding or the knowledge of the four noble truths, which is very clear. What is right understanding? Understanding of the four noble truths as they are. So I put it here again for clear understanding. So the right intention, thought of renunciation, thought of letting go of ill will, and the thought of non-violence. These are the right intention. Right is speech, abandoning for lying, abandoning slander and backbiting. It's Visunavacha, and harsh word, abandoning Parusavacha, abandoning frivolous talk, Sampappalapa, abandoning killing living beings, abandoning or abstaining from taking what is not given, stealing, in simple words, abandoning from sexual and sensual misconduct are called right action. Then we come to right livelihood. If you practice the above four, you are in right livelihood. So that's called right livelihood. Right effort is for effort. We have talked about this. If you need more details, we can discuss them later. here we become mindful about those things. That's what we do in Satipatthana Dhammanupassana. Then we go to the right mindfulness. It's all about mindfulness of the body, feelings, sensations, and mental state. And finally, we come to the last section of the Noble Eightfold Path called right concentration. They are all about jhanic experiences. So now we come to the end of the four foundation of mindfulness, Mahasatipatthana. So we become mindful about the Four Noble Truths as the last section of the Dhammanupassana. That's all for today. I do not know whether you have a picture of Satipatthana discourse in your mind. It's so difficult, but I have. First thing, Satipatthana discourse teaches four foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness on the body, mindfulness on the feelings, mindfulness on the minds, and mindfulness on the mental state called Dhamm. This is the main four teachings that the Buddha taught in the Satipatthana discourse, whether it elaborate for 70, 80 pages. Now we take the first foundation. It talks about the body in different ways. There are 14 sections. Now then we go to the feeling section, second foundation. There are a number of feelings in that category. Then we go to the mind. There are a lot of sections of the mind. Then we go to the mental state. The fourth one, we have different section on that. So it's up to you to read once again to have a mental picture about the discourse. But you know what? I didn't put it here since I want to take some statement of the Buddha about Satipatthana in a different class. And I think to discuss that factor of mindfulness in that class, he said at the end of this discourse that if you practice the four foundations of mindfulness in this scale, you end up the training either on the third level of enlightenment at least within 7 years. If your practice is done rigorously, you could attain to full enlightenment or to the third level of enlightenment minimum in 7 days. This is the only place Buddha give a guarantee that you could attain enlightenment, because this teaching is so powerful. Having said that,